and it's the latest edition of Who You Backing, our draft style battle. And before we get on to this week's topic, it's probably worth finding out who came out on top last week, which was a kind of head-to-head on who's the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the sport.
Yeah, it was you with Canelo, surprisingly.
Woo.
The comments didn't agree. Well, the comments were a bit back and forth, but in the poll, which I guess is the main thing, you were victorious.
Yes. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Let's see if I can carry on my unrivaled success this week. And this week it's all about the men in the corner, the trainers, and talking about who are the best current trainers in the world of boxing. Head trainers only, not assistant coaches and stuff, because then it'll just get too complicated. And it has to be people that are active at the moment, obviously. So Joe is going to ask me the trivia question this week.
Yeah.
And if I get it right, I'll get the first pick. And if I get it wrong, I concede the first pick to Joe.
Who was voted the best trainer of the last 10 years?
By who?
I think it was the Bleach Report or something. One online. Just take a wild guess. It's probably not the hardest.
The last 10 years?
Yeah, just get who you think it was, and then we'll see if you get it right.
Last 10 years. Freddie Roach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a hard one, to be honest.
He's not even on my short list for who you back in, I've got to be honest. But
Neither.
Like 5 years ago, yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
All right, so the first pick goes to me, and it might not be someone that people are thinking of, but I think when you have to pick out the top trainers, right, and most of the best trainers of the past and now will all say the fighter makes the trainer, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just blessed with finding someone who's got great ability and a great work ethic allied with it, and then you just have to make a few adjustments here and there. Having said that, because of those reasons, I think the best way to judge trainers is who they've worked with, who has improved under their tutelage. Maybe they haven't had the same success with other trainers, or maybe there's just noticeable improvements in the ring.
Okay.
So my number one is Brian Bomac McIntyre, who I think is certainly at the moment has to be considered in the top three, and for me, the number one trainer in the world. Most notable, of course, for his work in Omaha with Terence Crawford, who's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Your pick, neither of our picks last week for number one pound-for-pound. He was edged out by Loma and Canelo.
He was my second pick, carry on.
Yeah, your second pick, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so incredibly good fighter, has improved under Bomac's tutelage, but he's not the only world champion in that stable. You've got Jamel Herring, who's come on leaps and bounds since working with those guys, and Maurice Hooker as well, who obviously not too long ago lost his world title, but is still a factor, moving up, it seems, to 147 pounds now, and working diligently under Bomac and sparring with Crawford as well. And just the setup they've got there, it's not just McIntyre, although he'll get the kind of headlines as far as this video goes, but he works with Esau, Diegas and Red Spikes, and they've got a whole team down there who work like a well-oiled machine now.
Yeah.
Done wonders with Crawford, and other fighters have already started to see what's going on there and that they want a part of it. So he's my number one.
Good pick. Moving on to mine, I'm going with he's just been crowned with his 13th world champion on Tuesday night, Robert Garcia, in Joshua Franco. He was the latest man to be under his stable to get a world championship. He's obviously Mikey Garcia, I should say, his older brother. He's trained the likes of Nonito Donaire, trained the likes of so many different people. He's still going. And I think that the key for me is his stay ready, not be ready mentality. Of course, Virgil Ortiz, one of the top prospects in boxing at the moment. He's fighting on July the 24th now because Ryan Garcia wasn't. And I'm not saying, Ryan Garcia should be fighting, and it's because there's obviously more complicated things that you've got to think about with money and whatnot. But the thing I respect about Robert is he doesn't always put money first, because in boxing, no matter where you are, whenever you fight, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get better. And I think he understands that, because a lot of fighters at higher levels try and pick out opponents and try and pick the best opponent for them. But with Virgil Ortiz, he's just going through everyone at the moment, and he's fighting even Mike Garcia, he's gone up to welterweight when a lot of people don't think he belongs there, and he's just fighting the best at all times because I think they have that, like I say, that stay ready mentality and fight anyone. And I respect Garcia as a coach for that.
Yeah, it's a good pick. He was on the shortlist for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had that gym in California for a long time now, and
Yeah.
producing champion after champion is like a conveyor belt. And a lot of fighters, when they leave coaches, tend to think of him
Yeah.
first as well. He seems to be a bit of an exclamation point. So, yeah,
He's got, yeah, exactly, because he's so loyal to a lot of the fighters, which I feel like is a strong point and why he bonds with them. Because with the likes of Jesse Vargas, for example, he switches between a lot of trainers all the time, and it's hard to mold yourself as a fighter when you're jumping between different trainers because they implant different ideologies of how they want their fighters to fight. And it's, yeah, as I say, it's hard to become one solid fighter. And yeah, I respect Robert Garcia for having loyalty as well.
We've both kicked off with trainers based in the US. I'm going to show a bit of patriotism now and pick
don't
my
pick
number one current UK trainer and number two in my picks for the draft, and that's Adam Booth. Just a genius, And a lot of people out there will say, "Oh, Adam Booth, they don't like that style or the calm way in which he talks to fighters in the corner." But for me, I just think he's amazing. Not just consider him a friend, but also just I've kind of seen his career from very early on, and he took David Haye from a novice, whatever they were, 16-year-old when they were just mates, started training him, took him to world silver medal, and then world titles at cruiserweight and heavyweight as a pro. I mean, Haye arguably overachieved considering the injuries that he suffered throughout his career and the fact that he was a bit on the small side for a heavyweight at a time when the larger heavyweights like the Klitschko's were just coming to the fore. He worked with George Groves, of course. He wasn't the one who finally took Groves to the world title, but I thought Groves was excellent under him. He took Andy Lee on when it looked like Andy Lee, his career was kind of meandering, big puncher, but not really getting his just desserts. And eventually took Andy Lee, was the man that did it, and took him to a world title, which was great at middleweight. And then more recently, he's got this new young crop of fighters coming through, all of which look talented, but took Ryan Burnett, who sadly had to retire young, to unified world glory. And Burnett, just like Andy Lee, had worked with other trainers in the past, hadn't quite clicked, moved to Booth. He clearly improved them, changed their style, and they went on to championship success. And I think if you want to if you want a trainer that's going to nurture you and kind of, tell you everything you need to do from nutrition to S&C to technique, and someone who's going to be as committed as you are, is going to be in the gym all the time at the end of the phone. He's got a gym in his house as well that he lets a lot of fighters use. Fighters have stayed with him as well in his spare room. I know that. There can't be anyone better. And I think there'll be more world champions to come. I think Josh Kelly's being unfairly written off in some quarters. I think Mick Conlan will probably win a world title next year. So that could be Booth's next one. But fighters come from abroad to work with him as well. There was a Russian or a Ukrainian last time I visited the gym, really highly rated, who was spending some time there. Abbas Baral, Sauerland's German prospect, he's been there as well. So sought after coach, and they can't all be wrong, all these fighters and promoters that put their fighters there. So yeah, definitely Adam Booth number 2 for me.
Yeah, that was definitely the long version of the explanation. But mate, there's so many reasons why he makes a lot of those reasons why he makes one of the best coaches in Britain. I was going to pick this person, possibly third, depending on. But I'll just go with him now. As soon as you picked a British trainer, and I'm going to go with Robert McCracken now, not for the obvious reasons of AJ, Carl Froch, but for me, I think him being the performance director of the GB boxing team is just as big. And I say that because it's at the stage of the most boxers' career, the make or break stage, where if you want to make a career out of this, you have to have a fantastic time in the Olympics. You need to be on point so that you get signed to a promotion, a good promoter, sorry, as I say. And it's such a interesting time for boxers, and I think he nurtures them so well. Obviously, he's gutted right now because the 2020 Tokyo Olympics have been postponed to next year. But with how he trains the guys at the Olympics and then has moved on to train other boxers as well, he's fantastic. Obviously, AJ is the most notable one, and two fights that have happened at the new Wembley have been coached by Rob McCracken. Obviously, Carl Froch and AJ. Obviously, the undercards don't really count because they're not at Wembley without the main events. And I was sort of, I won't say actually who I was going to choose between because you might pick, well, just in case I have to evaluate in a minute. But yeah, I think there's so many things he's done for Britain in particular that just make him stand out. I could even say Cal Yafai. He didn't win a medal in the Olympics, and his brother, but he then came on to become a world title. So I just waffled then. So he's Cal Yafai and his brother were in the Olympics, obviously, and then turned into world champions. Like there's so many different names that he's brought up from a young age, and there's countless people from the Great British Olympics team that he's brought up. One more thing I will say is 25 major competitions, 81 gold medals for male and females. That is just, it's outstanding.
Yeah, terrific amateur coach. Done really well in the pros with AJ and Froch. I mean, a lot of people that criticise Froch say, yeah, he was strong and he was tough and he could hit hard, but that was about it kind of thing. I don't agree with that. But if you believe that to be true, that just shows the scale of the achievement that McCracken's had in guiding him to so much success. So, yeah, really good pick. So a final pick. I don't want it to seem biased that I'm going mainly for UK guys, but I think I analyse the resumes in recent times compared to some of the foreign coaches that might be more fashionable. The Brits still do come out on top, and I'm going for Shane McGuigan, my number 3. A lot of people doubted him at the start. He never boxed professional. He'd only boxed as an amateur, albeit at a good level. Probably could have achieved something actually as a fighter, a good fighter. Son, of course, of Barry McGuigan. So through Cyclone Promotions and stuff, he inherited fighters.
Yeah.
But he's gone well out of his dad's shadow by now. Achieved a huge amount. He took Cole Frampton to world titles at 2 different weights before their split. And that kind of really brought him to the attention, and then started building stables from then on. And then you just look at what he's done with some of the other fighters since then as well. He's had even the lower level fighters, likes of Lawrence Okoli, Chris Billum-Smith, have already started improving under his tutelage. But Luke Campbell is another one who's looked better than ever under Shane McGuigan. And Josh Taylor is the one that stands out above all as someone that she took from the start of his pro career, albeit a very accomplished amateur and an Olympian. But from the very start of his pro career, because he was working with Frampton after about 5 pro fights as kind of an assistant, and then moved into the main role a little while later. With Taylor, he had him from the very start. He was matched excellently. He was guided through those fights by McGuigan excellently and prepared superbly as well, and took him all the way to unified world glory. And obviously they're not together anymore, we know. Again, another split, unfortunately. But what these splits do prove is that Shane McGuigan's able to do it with a number of different fighters, and he can respond to adversity by building up the next contender. And he's got a good stable at the moment. No one can doubt that. He's got Anthony Fowler's obviously on board now as well. And he's going to improve everyone who comes under his wing. Whether he can improve them enough to get to world titles, it depends what you're working with to begin with. But that if you go to a Shane McGuigan gym, A, you're going to be super fit because he's got the S&C side nailed down. And B, you're going to have the technical nuances to get you to a better place than you were when you started. And I think, Luke Campbell could be in line with the title shot pretty soon. So maybe that will be McGuigan's next world champion. Okoli as well is supposed to be fighting Glavotsky for the vacant WBO whenever that gets rearranged. So the future looks pretty bright for McGuigan's gym. And they've just moved premises as well, with great new facilities and stuff. So, yeah, all power to him.
He has to be in top 3 British, top 5, maybe worldwide right now. He's done so much for the sport. And if you look at what he's still doing, I think he's going to be around for a long, long time. So my number 3 pick, last pick of the episode, I'm going to go with Ben Davison, another British. We'll make it. Is that 4 out of 6 British trainers?
I think so.
See it. And there's a lot of reason why, you know, he's obviously breaking in the last few years, and he's not well renowned across a lot of probably top six. But you know, there's a lot of reason why he should be. He's taken Tyson from the depths of despair to back to the top of the world. You know, and a lot of that, don't get me wrong, was based off friendship and the trust of being in his corner, because he was because he was mates with him. It was sort of partly not even just because he was a boxer trainer. That friendship and trust in the corner of the first few fights was what was needed more than an experienced trainer. I can understand that. But for me, I think, you know, moving on, obviously, with Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor, I think it's almost one for the future, an outside pick for sure. But I think he's definitely proven himself, and I think he's going to continue to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it goes beyond just results in the ring, and the work he did getting Tyson Fury back to a happy place mentally, and back on a diet, working hard in the gym, has to be taken into account. Yeah. And someone of the caliber of Josh Taylor, who could have gone with, you know, any coach in the world pretty much if you want.
He's not just going to pick, you know, someone who he thinks he's a good lad and wants a pint with. He's a real good trainer as well, and that's the main thing about it.
So, I mean, that says a lot. He picked him
exactly. Don't get me.
Says a lot.
Yeah. You know, it's certainly one he deserves praise, and he's going to be up there for the next 10 years. I'll say.
I mean, the picks will upset some trainers who haven't been in the top six. Obviously, we expect that, but we'll do a few honourable mentions, just people that were on my notes that didn't quite make it in, and then you can add some. So who did I have? I had Dominic Ingle. Like he's done with Kell Brook, and particularly Liam Williams, who's improved massively under Ingle. Eddie Reynoso, who obviously works with Canelo, improved a great deal since the Mayweather defeat.
I had him,
He now works with Ryan Garcia and Andy Ruiz Jr.
Abel Sanchez.
Yeah, Abel Sanchez, good pick as well. I had Anatoly Lomachenko, who obviously done stuff with his son since he was very young, and also now works with Alexander Usyk.
Yeah.
Joe Gallagher, for the great stable that he keeps churning out time after time. Callum Smith, obviously a world champion currently. I think that might be. Oh, Buddy McGirt.
You've picked some of mine, and then just mentioned in the honourable mentions my outside picks as well.
Good stuff. Well, let's hope we don't upset anyone then. It seems unlikely, but you never know. All right, so that's who you back in. We'll be back next week with another draft-style competition. But for now, just let us know what you think of our picks of the top trainers in the world today below. And tell us on people we've missed out, either honourable mentions who should have been in the top six, or people we haven't mentioned at all. I'm sure there's a couple. So let us know what you think. Don't be shy. Don't be too nasty either, but we can take it.